Hi, I'm Romy.
And I'm Nicole. Welcome to the Her Pursuit Pod, where we share our journey of building our business, The Daily Drip, a dynamic media platform that provides content and community for more than 4,000 South Florida female CEOs, founders, business owners, executives, and professionals.
Whether it's through our newsletter, events, or this podcast, our hope is to inspire your next big move and arm you with the tools you need to crush it. So tune in on your drive to work, wind down with us after a long day as we share our journey and the journeys of other remarkable business leaders on Her Pursuit.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Her Pursuit. I'm Nicole, co-founder of The Daily Drip, and I'm here with Ms. Elizabeth Jude from Jude the Agency, our trusted creative director and marketing extraordinaire, and we work together a lot on all things Daily Drip initiatives, and a lot of what you see, watch, or listen to has gone through Elizabeth's hands to produce it in a way that has it look and feel the way you're used to it coming across your desk or phone. So I wanted to have you on, Elizabeth, because we've been doing a series and kicking off 2025 with this idea of the importance of being a content-first business in the 21st century. The idea that we are very much in a hybrid business landscape and the digital scene is critical for thriving in business today, having a strong digital presence and doing that through the power of content, right? Leveraging social media, leveraging email, leveraging newsletters, YouTube, videos, podcasts, even this, what we're doing right now. I loved the last episode we had because we had Lisa from Element of Change and we had Ciara, the Bunker Agency, who are two professionals in the marketplace. One does HR, the other insurance. So not exactly like sexy industries to do content for, right? But yet they have rocking social media, like their LinkedIns, their Instagrams, their TikToks. They are just really presenting strong as thought leaders in their industry and in the South Florida market. But I loved, we also had Karen Ross, who Karen is a CPA. Again, like how sexy can we make accounting, right? But there's Karen who has just begun her thought leader journey. She's waken up to the idea that, hey, I need to have a digital presence. The firm needs to have a digital presence. And me as one of the managing partners has to present like a subject matter expert, a thought leader, a community leader. And so she's kind of getting started on her journey, and which is why she joined us and has now become a thought leader. And I know for me, when I'm working with clients, one of the biggest hurdles I notice when companies are ready to start making content a priority and being a content first accounting firm is the operations piece and the systems and the processes. It requires almost an overhaul of your marketing department and team and processes, because we're talking about creating content, producing content, and distributing content. And sometimes that's super foreign.
Yeah, and also the skill sets involved.
And, you know, most business owners, they're ready and willing to hire talent, hire marketing vendors, consultants, agencies. We've got people hiring VAs, but there's such a disconnect between what they're trying to accomplish and then the vendors they're hiring and what services they're getting. And so I thought we could dedicate this episode to trying to help all the consultants and all the business leaders out there listening to us how to become a content first business from an operations perspective. What does this mean for what's happening behind the scenes at your company? So I thought, let's take Karen as an example. What would you advise Karen to do from a logistics perspective and how to plan her attack for her content?
Yeah, well, I think everything starts with like mindset and how you see it, right? You were just saying you have to like talk to and try to convince them and get them to understand what a content first business is, right? I don't really like the term brand presence or like digital presence, because I feel like that means that like, oh, I just post a graphic, like I'm here, like present, like that's what it gives. That's what it gives. So I like the word like digital influence. Okay.
Ooh.
And as in, like, you know, my background's more like being an influencer. I think that word has more impact because now it's like, how do I influence people digitally? Because that's really what your marketing should be doing.
I love that.
It's not just about being there. It's about what are you doing to push the envelope, right?
And this is where we see so many things go wrong because so many professionals are resharing company posts. They're posting their employees' birthdays. We've been there, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, they
yeah.
just don't know
They
what
don't
to
know-
post, but they
right.
know they need to show up.
Yes.
So I love that
Yes.
term, digital influence.
Yeah.
Do you have digital influence? Great term.
Yeah, like I think that's step one. Like get them to shift to be like, okay, how do we create influence online? Once you create that shift, now it's no longer, oh, we gotta like repost this article. Oh, we gotta like create a Canva graphic for every event that we do. Like, no, now it's like, how do we influence people to buy our product or service, come to our event, etc., right? And that happens over a course of content, right? That's not one video, one graphic. Like, no, it's a campaign, right? Or it's a consistent flow of content. And so when it comes to people trying to build a personal brand, especially service-based businesses, like when we think about a CPA, an insurance agency, you know, HR, whatever, the biggest problem is that a lot of these people don't have time to record every day, right? Like most people, maybe on TikTok, like any TikTok guru is going to tell you, just make one video every day, just like post about your life. Like, no, like most of these people are actually skilled professionals who are real accountants, real lawyers, real, you know, fill in the blank. They don't have the time to be doing that because they're also in the business. So how do we create a content strategy that supports their business without overtaking like their life? So my advice is always like batch shooting. So batch shooting, all it means is that we're collecting a big volume of content all at once, very efficiently, that will roll out between a period of time, okay? There's lots of ways to do it.
And you're talking video. You're prioritizing
it could be video.
here.
It could be photo, though. It could be a big photo shoot. It could be anything, any sort of content. It could be articles even, okay? But when we batch shoot that content, let's say it's video, because that's the most impactful content you can put out right now is video content.
See it's all moving in that
right.
direction.
It's all moving in that direction. It's already in that direction. It's like, forget moving. It's already there. So video content's the most impactful content you can put out right now. So how do we batch shoot? There's lots of ways. It could mean sitting down and filming 30 videos in one day, just having them bang them all out, send it into an editor, have them cut, have them posted throughout the month. That could be batch shooting. It could also mean having a podcast, having a show or a YouTube series that you post a long form piece of content, maybe once a month, but then you're also cutting it into clips so that you have different pieces of content to post throughout the month as well. So that's another form of batch shooting. And I think like we talked about this earlier, and you can kind of dive into this, but even events could be a form of batch shooting content.
I'm a big proponent
you can
of that.
dive into that.
I'm a big proponent, but before we get into events, I kind of want to take a moment on what you just mentioned because it's important to understand what are the really big pieces of content that you should prioritize in your schedule that can then be turned into smaller pieces of content. So you're talking about YouTube videos or podcasts. Those are called long form, right? But then I love how you said you can take the clips, you can take moments within those videos and now use them on your LinkedIn. You can use them on your TikToks. You can use them on Instagram. So not only do you have these really in-depth thought leadership pieces, but then you can turn them into these small social media moments. I like to call them the junk food. It's the stuff
The junk food content.
Yeah, the content that's just the everyday run-of-the-mill content, you know? And I love it. Now with tools like AI, you can go and run the audio from your podcast episodes and
turn it into a blog.
You can get outlines for blog articles. You can put those blog articles on your website. You can post them on LinkedIn as a blog article. You can take those blog articles and now repurpose them into posts, just copywriting posts with graphics or pictures or things like that. So I love the idea of helping more business leaders understand that if you're posting 30, 40 times, you're not isolating each content piece as a homework assignment. It's about understanding what the big homework assignment is, scheduling that in your monthly calendar, and then from that, repurposing all the other things.
Right, because the number one problem is consistency. That's the biggest problem. It's like, yeah, I can like anybody can get convinced probably from any old video that they see of a TikTok guru being like, post every day. Okay, for a week, maybe they find the time, they find the 15 minutes to post a video every day. But like, how is that sustainable over time, right? So this is where building a content strategy comes in, right? Working with a content strategist, where you sit there and you go, okay, we're once a month, we're going to film podcast, YouTube, whatever, some sort of long form, right? We're going to batch shoot that. Then we're going to cut that into short clips. And then now, as the business owner, you can step back. You know why? Because now your marketing team can take that, turn it into a blog article. The same marketing team could take the information that you're saying there, turn it into your Canva graphic. They're not going to be bugging you about, what should we make the Canva graphic about this month? What should the carousel post be about this month? What's the blog post this month? Like, one time you sat down, you regurgitated a bunch of great information. Now your marketing, you can step back, which is really ideally what every business owner kind of wants. They want to be able to like step back and be like, I don't know, you do it. Like that's always what
it's the biggest disconnect.
Right.
I've dealt with so many consultants and professionals that have hired marketing people and are so frustrated because the marketing person says, okay, what do you want to post? And they're like, well, I hired you for that. Like, what the hell? Like, now you're still taking up my time. This didn't come off my plate. I still have to be involved.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to understand, especially when it comes to personal branding and positioning yourself as a thought leader, subject matter expert, industry leader, you do have to be involved. Your face is now the face, right? You become the influencer for your business, the ambassador for your business. And this is the type of activity that gets you the speaking engagements and gets you the keynotes and gets you the awareness among your strategic referral partners, the other complementary leaders in the market that you can collaborate with and all these things. So there is an element of you that needs to be present. But I think, yes, a missing content strategy is certainly a challenge, and then the consistency of creating content regularly. But I think also, at least I've seen it when I'm working with people, is, you know, they get in front of the camera and like their mind goes blank. It's like, what do I say? And meanwhile, you've been a practicing CPA for 30 years. And
So
it's like, what do you mean?
So that's where it's like, okay, we know that you're going to have to be involved. Don't let that scare you, the fact that you're not going to be able to step back from your marketing strategy. If you're the business owner, if you want to build a personal brand, you're going to have to be involved, okay? But how can we make that involvement as impactful as possible? So when it is a long form piece of content, you're just, you know, regurgitating a bunch of great information, like I just said. Now, how do we get them to say that great information? Right. There's so many different mediums. You know, we have this interview, conversational style podcast that we do. For a lot of other people, it simply means having prompted conversations, scripted content. Like when you work with a really good director, creative director, marketing team, they're going to be able to prompt you. I mean, that's what we do in the agency.
Oh, yeah.
We prompt you. We script sometimes. We kind of construct the videos in a way where we have a hook, we have a, you know, the main meat of the video, a call to action. Like we strategize all of that ahead of time so that once the person's on camera, they don't have to think about that. But that's all about having a good creative team who's thinking about all these details that you're not, because it's not your job to.
Correct. Your job is to show up with the information and a smile. And that's always been our MO at the Daily Drip with our thought leaders, is we don't want to add to their workload. Our thought leaders are some of the most dynamic leaders in the South Florida community. They don't have time. Most of them are moms. Like they don't have a square to spare. So we need to make it as fun and as simplified as possible so that they can just show up with what they know and their personality and let it shine. And so one of the ways that we help business leaders become thought leaders is we've broken down the types of things you should be saying or writing about into 8 buckets. There's 8 categories of different types of things. So like, for example, one of those categories is your origin story. People want to know how you got here. Like, why this job? Why this company? Why this role? Why are you still here 30 years later? You know, what gets you going about this? People care to know your story, because Romy always says this, at the end of the day, we're not unique. Like there's 1,000 other people who do what we do. People care about doing business with people they like. And the only way people can like you is to first know you and know your story. So that's one of our buckets. You know, another bucket we talk about is predictions and forecasts. If you've been in accounting for 30 years, you've seen the tax structure probably go through so many iterations, evolutions, changes. We've just gone through a whole bunch in the last 3 years, right? And so people want to know, what are you predicting? What things do you see coming up on the horizon? What are the biggest problems you see with the recent changes and things like that? Maybe they want to hear about you just as a business leader. It has nothing to do with accounting. Maybe it's just, how'd you grow the firm?
Yeah.
How do you keep your team engaged?
Yeah, so
How are
all
you
of these things sort
handling-
of just like prompt the conversation. So a lot
Right.
of times you don't know what to say when you get in front of the camera, but as long as we can make the conversation easy and natural, it doesn't matter how they say it or what order they say it. When you have a good team behind it, you could rearrange that, you can play with that, you can have them repeat it, things like that. And I think that's what we try to do at the Daily Drip is like ask them the right kind of questions, think about how we're getting the content, how we're using the content so that it comes out in a way where it's like, whoa, like them who was recording it, like they never thought it would look like that, like the
Yeah.
final product. They're like, whoa, like how did you like, but it's okay because that's not their job. So that's really when it comes to like getting a good creative team, and creative team is like such like a foo-foo like language. It's like, what does that even mean, right? Like what kind of roles, and we can go
Right.
into that. But yeah, when you have the right people in place, thinking about all these little details, not just okay what they're saying, how they're saying it, now how we're going to use it, and then how we're going to distribute it. Like when you have the right people thinking about all this stuff, it's actually quite quick and painless.
It is, and dare I say fun. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's the most ambitious goal of the Daily Drip is to make content creating fun, because it is the biggest pain in the ass for most people. It's the thing they know they have to do, but they dread it and they put it off. But like part of what makes it fun is doing it in community, is doing it alongside peers and other people. And that's what makes podcasting fun. And that brings me to the other thing I'm a very big proponent of, which you mentioned, which is event marketing. I mean, we are looking at predictions that are forecasting in a world where AI is making videos, photos, and copywriting for you. Social media is going to become incredibly saturated. Also coming out of the pandemic, people are looking and starved for connection. They want experience, right? At a pace that is never really seen before. And so the prediction of events and immersive experiences as part of like a critical component of a marketing strategy is on the rise, and even more so for service-based businesses, because there's probably no better way to demonstrate your leadership, your subject matter expertise, and your community stakeholderness than to host. The idea of being the host, hosting the masterclass, hosting the roundtable discussion.
Because it sets you apart, right? Like it's becoming too easy to be on social, to create content. Like in some ways, like not that it's easy, but like in a lot of ways with AI and things like that, it's almost becoming like, I mean, anybody could really do it. So it's like, how do you set yourself apart? How do you create that credibility? And I think events are a great way to do that, but it's also capturing the events.
Yeah. So there's so much that gets done in an event, and that's how we built the Daily Drip. So obviously event marketing is my jam. It's something I'm a big proponent of, but it does so many things. It allows you to curate an audience. That audience could be people you could be collaborating with. They could be potential clients, could be everything else in between. It allows you speaking time. You basically create your own speaking opportunity. You create your own stage, and you are also providing value. You can also, to your point, document the experience, have videographers, have photographers there. And not only are they documenting you speaking, but unlike a podcast, there's an active, visible audience listening to you, engaging in what you're saying, reacting to what you're saying. There's probably no better way to build social proof for your digital content and showcase you in action than at a live event. You can also capture testimonials at the end and feedback.
But it's all these little details, right? Like, okay, we're thinking testimonials, we're thinking them speaking on stage, we're thinking the whole grandiousness of the, the event, and like, oh my God, like the credibility, the location, the sponsors, all these things that could sort of like build credibility. But you have to think of all of these different content points, right? Like that's a very important kind of sort of missing piece. A lot of people, I'm going to throw the event. They get all the reasons why they should, but then they're like, okay, how do I capture it? And how do I capture it strategically?
Well, I think for most people, they stop there. They think, okay, I'm hosting an event. I got to get pictures and some video clips. So they have their bestie in the front row with the iPhone. Daniel Wakefield, thank you for that line. It's my favorite line ever because it's so true. It's like bestie in the front row with an iPhone, taking some pictures, taking some video, and they make one post. But meanwhile, an event could technically be 4 to 6 weeks of content.
It could roll out for a long time, especially if like you use that content. Like think about like something as simple as a testimonial. Okay, you use it maybe right after the event, but you can also save that to mark if it's a yearly event to market the next event,
to market next year's event.
It's like evergreen content. You know,
you could get a reel of the scene of the event. You could get a highlight moment from a stage and a speaker and like a really powerful thing that they said. You could get the venue and the sponsors and the crowd and the engagement. So many pieces of content. You can get photos and use a photo of you on stage in a very powerful scene with an inspirational quote or a powerful statistic you want to share. But there's no better way. I think that events is one of the most slept on strategy in every way, either from not doing them or not doing enough of them to not capturing them the right way and leveraging it properly digitally, because you might have 30, 50, 100 people in the room, but if you capture it properly digitally, you could potentially have an event audience of thousands of people and give that experience to so many more people, give you and your expertise to so many more people. So I think events is something that I always recommend people try to get on a quarterly frequency. Can you host a group? It could be small, it could be large. I was recently reading an article of like the top event formats or ideas for consultants. And one that I thought was so interesting is having like a conference postmortem. Hosting, like if there's a big conference in your industry that you know a lot of your peers go to, hosting an intimate dinner at like a swanky restaurant with maybe 20 people, invite only, and leading a discussion group on the biggest takeaways, the forecasting, the predictions. Like imagine curating an experience like that and then documenting it and what that does to the audience and your network's perception of you, how that builds influence. So I love the idea of really being creative in your event marketing strategy and thinking about it beyond workshop, masterclass, dinner, discussion group, but think of it as a whole experience. Where are you hosting it? What are you serving? Who's in the room? How are they dressed? What do they see? What do they touch? What do they hear? You know, every detail matters.
All these things are visual representations of the brand. And if you're capturing them, they're going to live on, right? So really curating these events and capturing them in a way that you can repurpose that content over and over again, I think is going to be really, really, really powerful. And I don't think that means that you have to like change your whole business strategy to be like you're an events company. Like, no, like this could be any sort of business, any like a consultant, a product-based business. If you make events happen at least quarterly, monthly, whatever it is, and you treat that as your batch shooting session, you know, now not just are you tapping into your community and like your current audience, but you're expanding that audience even bigger because you're also putting it on social and you're building that brand credibility. Now you're known for these like really cool signature events that are maybe a little exclusive. It builds like more equity to the brand as well.
Correct. And it's powerful when you're documenting it. And I think about this especially on LinkedIn, where network is very authentic on LinkedIn. Like a lot of people are connected to people they truly do work with and engage with in the community. And so when you're posting a recap or coverage or the experience you create, and there are people in the room that your network recognizes, maybe they respect them, maybe they work with them, maybe they know them.
FOMO.
They get FOMO. They want to know, how do they get on that invite list? And yeah, I think it not only does this not mean you're an eventing business, this means this is your marketing strategy. And this is part of what we're talking about in all the ways marketing has changed. And especially in the dawn of AI, so many marketing strategies and tactics are going to quickly evaporate.
Because you need to stand out. You can't just like do the bare minimum. You can't just like present. Like, you can't just show up. Like, you really need to bring a human aspect to it, you know? And you have to bring something special to the table, whether that's in the way that your videos are done or like, I think creativity is more important now than ever, you know?
Well,
Because you need to stand out in a way where it doesn't look like it's AI. Because I mean, AI now is getting so crazy that, you know, you can use it to do a lot of things. So like you said, like, it's going to become even more competitive on the digital landscape. But I think if you become more creative, whether it's events, the way you're doing your videos, starting a podcast, however it is you decide to show up online, you have to do it different, you know?
You have to do it different. You have to do it you.
Yeah.
It has to be very
Authentic.
authentic to you. But I think, what a lot of people are predicting is that because of AI and because of the complete saturation we're going to see of content, human created is going to be the new organic.
Yeah.
It's going to be the new label that people are going to crave. They're going to want human created content, art, articles, and we're going to start seeing, they're predicting it already, we're going to start seeing that be your premium subscription. Do you want AI generated articles and newsletters, or do you want ones created by people? Well, for $7.99 you can have ones created by real people and real experts in this industry. So the premium being placed on human creation and human touch is going to really draw out the creative in all of us. And I don't care if you're a CPA or a lawyer or a photographer, there is creativity in all of us. And really this boils down to, how do I showcase who I am and what I know and what I mean to this industry or this community?
And sometimes it's in the little things. Like, sometimes it's like, you were just saying, like, you know, you do a dinner party. Like, maybe you're a foodie, like, you're an accountant, fine. But like, maybe deep down you love like food and like culinary experiences. Bring that to your brand. Even though it seems unrelated, it's going to make you stand out, you know? 100%. Like, I was doing some videos for an insurance agency. How boring can it get, insurance, right? So instead we were like, okay, let's make it look cool. Let's make it look posh. But then we're going to put hip hop music in the background. Like, how can we make it like almost like a contradiction of like creative things happening to make it more interesting and make it stand out? Whether it's in how you do your events, how you create your content, but like, bring something that you actually like. Like, we're diverse, interesting people, right? So maybe you just like love music. Maybe your events have like really cool DJs at them or something. Yeah. Like, you know, like, just bring something into it that's very you, that's very authentic. Yes. And that'll kind of bring an edge to the brand.
There's so many elements that you can use to your advantage for that exact reason. Where you host your event, to your point, is it at a unique restaurant? Maybe it's at a studio. Maybe it's at a gallery. Yeah. Like, who knows? You can get super creative where you choose to host the event. Is it a first look at a brand new business center opening? Is it at a first look at a university that's going to be unveiling something? Who in your network can you tap into and leverage to really pick a unique space that draws people to your event in and of itself, because it's like, oh, I want to go experience that space or that menu.
Like, I think what we did with the magazine launch party was like such a fun like concept. Kind of like, it was like a little brain baby that we were like, wait, like, that's kind of brilliant. But I think it was awesome because there's so many like media companies and like these like stiff sort of like corporate events, and I'm like, that's not really the Daily Drips vibe. Like, everybody here's like buddies and friends, and like we're all trying to be creative. Like, what if, like, you know, we're always saying we're trying to bring like the average business person into this creative space. Let's literally do that. Let's actually bring them into the studio where we shot the magazine. Like,
we hosted our anniversary party,
and I think that made it so much more interesting because people were excited to go, because it wasn't just going to be another boring banquet hall or a boring venue.
Yeah,
like, it was going to be
cocktail party.
Yeah, like, it was like, oh my god, like, this is at a studio. Like, am I at the right place? Like, this is confusing. Like, but that made visually the videos way more interesting.
Yeah,
like, suddenly, like, just literally visually, it didn't even matter. You can watch the video on mute. Visually, visually it looked better. Okay.
Yeah.
And that matters.
Yeah.
Then you add, you know, the fact that the room was packed and the audio's like, you could hear all the people there. Like it just created like this really cool sense of like, whoa, like I want to be there. Wish I was there. FOMO. Right.
Right.
So if you do that, whether it's with the event space, the food, the music, whatever it is, and you add something sort of different, sort of interesting and not the norm, it makes you stand out.
And see, this is why I love event marketing so much. And it's also why podcasting for me is my second favorite. And I think the reason I love these two tools for batch content creating is because it allows you to do it in community. You can bring other people in versus you in front of a camera just talking. For me, that's my least favorite content to consume. I love when there's the play in personalities and perspectives. I always find that kind of content more interesting, and I find myself watching all the way to the end. So that's why our podcast either has one person or a group of people, roundtable discussion. That's why I love event marketing, whether it's panel events, keynotes, intimate mingles and networking experiences, private tours, or workshops or master classes. It brings people together. And what that allows your content to do is not only be more visually interesting, as you mentioned, gives you the ability to tag them all. And now people who follow them are seeing you, and now you're on their radar, and it just creates community around content, and that community translates in real life. So you're getting your networking done, your relationship building done, your content done, your social sharing done, you've got social proof. You're literally checking all the boxes by either doing a podcast or hosting a quarterly experience, as small or as large as you want that.
And we're saying
experience to be.
podcast because podcast is the medium we like. It could also mean like a YouTube series, like a long form YouTube series that's filmed the same way, but maybe it's not on an audio platform. Doesn't matter, but just any form of like long form conversational type content that you're putting up on YouTube or Spotify, wherever it is. That should be like your baseline content strategy. I mean, we were talking about this before, but like thinking about what you can do consistently no matter what's going on during the year, right? So for us, that's the podcast. That's like our consistent rollout of content.
Yeah, I was just
right?
going to say the spine of our content plan at the Daily Drip is events first, followed by the podcast,
Right.
Her Pursuit.
And that's like you're right, like baseline. But then like you layer the events and these signature things that like have campaigns and stuff like that. That's not something you're doing all the time, but you sort of like pause the content strategy to then put out this thing to launch this thing. So if you think of your content strategy like that, where it's like, what am I doing on a regular basis that's like maintenance for my digital influence, okay? And then you layer events and you layer product launches, service launches, whatever it is you're doing throughout the year that are sort of like these exciting moments that happen throughout the year. But what's happening consistently is your quote unquote podcast, video content, whatever it is that you're doing. So that way you never have that moment of like, what are we going to post? Like,
right.
You know, like you need to have that consistent content strategy and then layer the other things on, because otherwise then you're just doing event,
Right.
which isn't necessarily what we're saying either. We're saying build a content strategy, layer the events, use the events in your content, and you know, you can still launch products, you can still do other exciting creative things. Those are campaigns, right? But what is your consistent content strategy? That's what we're saying, like batch shoot it, make it easy, like do a podcast, do a YouTube series, do whatever.
Yeah, and you might be saying, oh my gosh, I'm a CPA who wants to listen to a podcast about accounting. But if you think about what Ciara did, Ciara's got the Bunker Agency.
Yeah.
She's commercial insurance. Her podcast is not about insurance.
Right.
There are occasional moments where the subject of insurance comes up in the conversation, or the person on the podcast is from the industry. But
You know
her
why?
podcast is about business, because she looks at herself as a business owner first that happens to be in the insurance
And
industry.
she also understands that her product, she sells commercial insurance. She understands that her product is for business owners, right? How do I attract business owners? That's your question in marketing. How do I attract my target audience? If her target audience is business owners, do they want to sit there and listen to like boring technical stuff? No. A business owner, though, will love an entrepreneurship podcast,
Right.
loves to hear the entrepreneurial story, loves some business tips. So she knows exactly how to hook her target audience. And then, oh, by the way, I do commercial insurance. She doesn't need to bore them. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the key. How do you get the attention of your target audience in an interesting, creative way?
Right.
Right. And then it's like, by the way, we do this, because if everything's an ad, that's when it becomes
We don't like
unauthentic.
to be sold to.
Right.
Lisa does the same thing. So Lisa with Element of Change is an HR consultant. She hosts forums. I think some of them are virtual, but she's excited to go live this year, which I think is going to be exciting for her. She established the series virtually and on LinkedIn, and it's for HR professionals and corporate leaders to talk about the real challenges they're facing in the corporate world from a culture perspective, from a change management. We're seeing mergers and acquisitions like crazy. We're seeing companies closing. We're seeing industries shifting, like the ground is shifting under us. And so she's capitalizing on that by saying, let's all come together and talk about it. What are you doing
And
over there?
she understands that, how do I get their attention? How do I get these people looking at me? I'm going to give them a platform.
Yeah.
Here's a platform. Come onto my platform. You know, like, enjoy. And then now she's attracting the audience she wants. It's kind of what a podcast does too. We're building a platform. You have guests on,
Right.
You know, you're like, think about a networking call. Like, oh, can I get a networking call with you for 5 minutes? Get coffee with you. Like, you know, sometimes people are like, no, I don't have time for this. But if you tell them, you want to be on my podcast, you give them a platform, now you have the opportunity to connect with individuals that you probably wouldn't have before, right? So building a platform, whether it's a forum, a podcast, whatever, giving people a place to tell their story, if you're attracting the right people to tell that story, that's going to attract your target audience.
Right.
It's a great way to organically like and create like impact, you know, like actually interesting conversations that don't feel like an ad, that don't feel like you're just talking about these boring subject matters.
In fact,
that's why we say they're like unsexy businesses.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't have to be.
No, but I think if you think of content as your new Salesforce, as your new networking tool, all of a sudden podcasting or these recorded conversations, to your point, they could be YouTube videos. They don't need to be on Spotify. But like these types of video content events, whether it's a panel discussion or an intimate discussion group virtually or a dinner or whatever it is that you're doing, a workshop, these things are tools to do what you're already doing and do what you're striving to do, which is get the visibility, get the attention in the room. So many people are looking for speaking opportunities. What if you made your own stage?
Yeah.
And you created the mic for yourself. And then you made that initiative so big that you were able to have 3 mics on the stage. And now you give those mics to strategic partners and referral partners or peers or different things like that. I mean, there's just such power in understanding where content fits in the business game. And I think the most streamlined parallel is to think of it as your new sales department, because what it will do, especially if you're leveraging these community-based tactics and documenting them and then putting them out there and tagging all those people, is you are doing your networking and you are demonstrating your expertise and you are building your brand awareness and you are building your network. And all of a sudden, the pipeline starts filling. The Calendly links start going wild. And all of a sudden, you're having coffees and meetings and things on your calendar. People are asking to collaborate with you. People are asking to learn more about what you do and get a better understanding of your specialty. All these things start happening because they're seeing you online. And the perception is, this person has influence. This person's out there doing something. This person is legitimate in their field. Look who they're with. Look who they're on stage with. Look what they're hosting. Look at the type of content they're putting out there. And people automatically associate that with credibility and wanting to be a part of it.
In so many ways, it's your sales department, it's your PR department, it's your networking, it's your marketing, it's your branding. Like, I mean, the way you're able to check off boxes, and now not all boxes are going to be checked off all at once. Like, everybody always thinks social media, oh my God, how soon am I going to get to 10,000 followers? Like, forget the numbers for a second.
Oh my God,
and
we do so much business. We've crossed incredible thresholds in revenue volume. And we have like 2,000 followers on Instagram. I think total wide, we have about 10,000 on all social media platforms, right? But that's not incredibly large.
Yeah.
But all those people, all 10,000 of those people are real.
Yeah.
They live in South Florida. We see them at events. We do business with them. We network with them. We support their initiatives. They're real.
So once you think past just the social media game of like, oh, I'm going to want to reach a bunch of people, you think past that and you think, okay, this is building brand credibility. I'm talking to people. I'm having opportunities to connect.
I think the problem is when we go to create, we think about talking to strangers, new people that we don't know yet, and we want them to discover us. Instead of thinking, how do I talk to Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Elizabeth follows me.
Yeah.
How do I start talking to her and getting her to understand me better and what I do better?
Yeah.
Start talking to the 50 people who follow you.
Yeah. I think it's a balance, but people don't even think about that, right? So like if you just shift your mindset slightly to be like, okay, I have like 10 followers, but how can I really talk to these 10 followers? Like you're going to make such a bigger impact on your business, especially if they're the right 10 followers, right?
Right.
Like,
I mean, I know that most of our audience has more than 10 followers. And like, for example, Karen Ross, she's connected on LinkedIn to all her clients, all her referral partners. She's involved in a ton of nonprofit organizations. She's connected to the major donors, board members. So her network is a very strong network of South Florida business leaders. Who cares if there's 200 or 2,000 or 200,000? She just needs to start creating content for those people that already know who she is, already like her, have already worked with her. And now she's starting to showcase herself more. They're going to want to engage with her. They're going to want to know what she's up to. They're going to want to have those lunch meetings and participate or do business with her.
and it's all about having the right audience, right? Like if she has those like let's say it's 1,000 people, South Florida business owners, like she has that right audience and she starts speaking to them, there's more people like them, you know? Correct. So when we get caught up in the numbers, we're like, these could be random people, right? Like not target audiences, right? Versus when maybe we have a smaller audience right now, but it's very hyper located, it's very specific, and it's very much the people we want to attract. We'll just continue to attract more people like that because those are the people that really matter, right? Like the people who are going to be a part of your business, who are going to buy whatever, right? So those are the ones that truly, like, that's what you're trying to attract.
It's so funny. I remember when we first started the Daily Drip and we were hosting different women's professional groups for panel events, and Romy and I would find the spheres of influence in the market or within that group, and we would find them on LinkedIn. We would screenshot what they look like and send them to the photographer. And we would say, I don't care about anything else, like capture the event, but these 10 people need to be in all the pictures. Mm-hmm. And we would then tag them in the recap posts. And then those 10 people being seen at our events added such a level of legitimacy, and we would pick up like hundreds of followers every time we did an event recap just because of who was in the pictures. And people were like, wow, Jennifer Starkey was at that event. She sponsored, TD sponsored that FICPA event. They're working with FICPA. Their president is on their panel. I got to follow the Daily Drip. I got to stay on top of this group. I don't know everything yet, but I know I got to be paying attention. And that started happening every single event over the course of a year, 2 years, and that's how we grew to where we are today. So I love all of this. I think that this is a really helpful episode for a lot of people for this year who are making marketing or social media or content a bigger priority. They want to be a content first accounting firm, a content first consultant.
If you are a service-based business, if you are like a professional, an expert in a specific thing, right? An industry, what do you call it? An industry expert? Yeah. Okay. So if you're an industry expert, this is the episode for you, because this episode outlines the exact content strategy you should be following, from the baby steps of start batch shooting your content to maybe the next 6 months. It's like, how do we start rolling out events? And then it's like, okay, like now I'm networking. How do I create strategic partners? Like this is the outline. You listen to this episode, 2025 will be completely different for you.
We're giving you the blueprint.
This is the blueprint, right? And if you want perspectives from other people, the last 2 episodes we did were from real life, business owners who are in kind of these unsexy industries who are doing it well. And so go follow them, go analyze what they're doing. Maybe it gives some inspiration.
And at the end of the day, I just hope that you guys all understand. We always hope our audience understands. This is the mission of the Daily Drip. we want to be able to help people learn our processes so they can go and take it back to the lab and do it in their own companies. So we are dedicated to that. And that's what the membership community is for. And the platform just is an extra bonus of where we can help showcase all the work that you do, all the content you create. We want to be able to give that third party endorsement to say, wow, they created this video, they were on this podcast, they're hosting this event, and the Daily Drip is promoting it, and it was featured in the Daily Drip. So it's an extra bonus, but we really want to be the place where people can come and learn, not just through a masterclass or a podcast, but through doing. They can actually get their hands dirty in a safe environment, start creating things and say, oh, now I see what that's supposed to look like.
And do it alongside a bunch of other people who are in the same boat.
Yeah,
too,
everyone's trying to figure it out. But the
Yeah.
best creativity comes in community, in collaboration. And so I think 2025 is going to be the year. It's the year everybody needs to get in front of the camera, get out there, get on the stage, and start posting.
Start posting with purpose and to create influence and to create impact, and everything's going to change for you.
And stop wishing employees happy birthday.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Elizabeth, thanks for coming on and helping me
Thank you.
help them. You do so much with us. And so I wanted to kind of share the wealth and the insights. And I hope you guys all found this helpful. And be sure to tune in. If you didn't hear the last 2 episodes, go back and listen to those because you will get some more expanded information on these topics, and continue to tune in. Make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter, check out the events and workshops. This is something we do all year long, not just kicking off the year in, business planning. So be sure to tune in, subscribe, and stay on top of it. And no matter what, no matter how cringe it may feel, no matter how bad you think it may be, no matter how annoying it is to weave into your schedule, keep going.
Press the big red button and do it.
All right, so that's a wrap. We'll see you on another episode of Her Pursuit.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Her Pursuit.
You can listen to new episodes every other Wednesday on Spotify or watch us on YouTube. Stay in the loop on all our virtual and in-person events, read our latest articles, and catch new episodes by subscribing to our free weekly newsletter.
Check out the episode notes for more details, and we'll see you here on our next episode of Her Pursuit.